Good afternoon. I'm Himitsu here in Ronin Dojo. Hajimemashite, yoroshiku onegai shimasu. Before we start today's lesson, I just want to give you a little bit of context. My teacher, John Doherty, was a Toronto police officer and head of the defensive tactics section of the Toronto Police for about a decade. I too was a Toronto police officer once upon a time. My sensei's teacher was a Toronto police officer, and to the extent that my teacher left, when he died in 2015, left this enigma of battlefield jujutsu and taiho jujutsu, or the art of arrest, arresting jujutsu, or the police less lethal jujutsu. We always have to understand what is jujutsu if it is battlefield or taiho. My sensei learned his jujutsu the same way that he taught it to me. It was a bunch of moves. I've worked for other teachers in their dojos, teaching their bunch of moves. And in very, very few occasions have I ever seen a structured syllabus. The syllabus for this British system of Jujutsu International, from which our lineage comes from, I found out was actually stolen from American Jiu-Jitsu back in the 80s. And so if we see this as a British style of jiu-jitsu stolen from the Americas, then what part of this jiu-jitsu is Japanese? Where is the Japaneseness of this? And so based on this enigma of taiho and battlefield that my teacher left me, I've taken it as my mission to figure out what is the Japaneseness of this jiu-jitsu. If it is battlefield, it has to be pre-1603, prior to the Battle of Sekigahara. It has to be relevant to armor and armament. And if it's taiho, it could be Edo, but the history of the Edo period and the rise of the dojo culture doesn't necessarily mean that it is effective. Because even though jiu-jitsu is supposed to be samurai, which samurai? Was it the Edo period samurai in the era of peace? Or was it the warfare samurai in the Sengoku Jidai? So in order to do that, what I've been able to do in the creation of my syllabus, and my syllabus isn't better than anybody else's syllabus. They're all the moves that we see in the judo and the aikido syllabi and other places. But we've stopped simply collecting moves and trying to build this bigger, more comprehensive encyclopedia of movement. Because Most Extreme Elimination Challenge, very Japanese game show. That it's not simply about amassing movement, but what are the foundational principles of the movement? In our syllabus here in Ronin Dojo, we have 8 core concepts. And these introductory lessons about trying to show not the movement, because movement is movement, but to understand the movement through these concepts, which have to be constant. If there is contradiction in the movement to the principle, then something has to be incorrect. We have to check our assumptions, right? And if our assumptions are battlefield, Japanese, taiho, arresting, then they must work. We must be able to contextualize them. So to that extent, just if you want to have a quick look around, my dojo is a basement, and you may have figured that. This is my house. This dojo was built by my wife. In order for us, because then the last dojo, which we all, most of us were from, surprisingly died very, very quickly based on something that I don't want to talk about here. But we left, I bought the mats, and my wife made the dojo, and that's why we're here. So, we're a bunch of guys looking for meaning, training in a basement in an insignificant little village. And if you want to decide that anything that we say is legitimate or illegitimate, that's up to you. You do you, we'll do us. But our mission is to try to come up with the most true and effective interpretation of what jiu-jitsu is based on what it must be. If, always if, as my teacher said, we have battlefield jiu-jitsu and we have taiho jiu-jitsu. What are those things and what must they be if they are constant and correct? And that's why we have these principles. And so today we're going to take a look at another one of these principles. We're going to be talking about lines of entry. So to that, thank you.